Thank you, Congressman Pittenger. Thank you for inviting me to speak today about energy security. So from 2017 until 2021, I was the U.S. Ambassador to Denmark, Greenland, and the Faroe Islands. And now I am the Vice Chair for Energy and the Environment at the Center at the America First Policy Institute. And while I was based in Denmark, I worked with the White House to block the Nord Stream 2 pipeline for my entire tenure. My team and I worked very hard on this, and we also warned our allies not to rely on Russian energy and to make sure that they had a diversified sources of energy. You know, I don't think it's an overstatement to say that the world is experiencing the worst recorded energy crisis right now. We're all paying more for energy than we were just a year or two ago, and we're paying more to heat or cool our homes and power our businesses and transportation. But first, I'd like us to just step back for a moment and consider this. According to the International Energy Agency, it's an international organization founded to mitigate supply disruptions, energy security is defined as the uninterrupted availability of energy sources at an affordable price. And it's influenced by the following: national security considerations, like disruptions or the level of energy dependence, consumer cost and energy system reliability, and environmental sustainability. Energy security is the constant balancing of these factors. And our modern energy approach is largely driven by the 1970s oil crisis that was triggered by the Arab oil embargo and the nuclear disasters of Chernobyl and 3 Mile Island, near where I come from. And in response, many nations, especially those in the OECD, focused on mitigating supply disruptions by diversifying energy sources, supplies, and routes, and rightly so, because no country should be dependent on a single source or supply. But many in the OECD took this a step further and began their, what I consider to be a myopic focus on renewables to eliminate dependence on fossil fuels. And decades later, here we are. In the US, we experienced an energy revolution of hydraulic fracturing or fracking, and OPEC, which is 40% of the global oil market, first tried to bankrupt our independent producers by flooding the market. And then when that failed, they tried to recruit the US to join them in 2019. And the reason OPEC did this is because the US was on track to be the world's most impactful swing producer and the world's largest producer of oil and natural gas. The United States is the global superpower of energy. Let me repeat that. The United States is the global superpower of energy. The US is the only country that's a top producer of oil, gas, and energy technology innovation. The US is also the leader in energy equipment manufacturing, including electric vehicles, turbine manufacturing, nuclear reactor design, and battery technologies. And private capital flooded into the US energy sector. Incredibly innovative companies increased our natural gas, wind, solar, and lithium-ion battery production. Then in 2019, the US became a net exporter of energy for the first time since 1950s. We have enough energy in the ground in the United States to power the entire world for hundreds of years. And we do it cleaner in America than anywhere else in the world. We harvest it cleaner, we lay the pipes cleaner, and we refine it cleaner than anywhere else in the world. But now, the world finds itself with energy hunger. And this is an emergency. The Russian invasion of Ukraine, the Western world's focus on renewables at the expense of affordable and reliable energy sources, and the pressures of the ESG crowd have caused a monumental crisis. The US is still increasing production, but we're not keeping up with the growing demand because of government policies that discourage fossil fuel and nuclear energy production. World leaders are playing with global stability. Nowhere is this more apparent than in the recent COP27, where a denial of reality and false messages were being sold to the American people and to the world that a transition to renewable wind and solar energy will provide the same benefits as cheap and abundant, cleanly harvested fossil fuels. This is a lie. Instead, world leaders, the UN, the IEA, and the ESG crowd are attempting to deindustrialize the West. And they've weaponized capital to achieve this. They're threatening banks, they're restricting fossil fuels from developing Africa, rather than empowering them to undertake the very pathways to prosperity that led to our own successes. Not to mention the historic increases in the standard of living and longevity. They're effectively keeping people in poverty. And we see that China, Russia, and India have no appetite for this. I propose a new way forward and a glorious future for the people of the world where they can flourish, experience inexpensive transportation, power their businesses at a reasonable price, and keep the lights on at home. How, you might ask? Well, it's by encouraging clean harvesting and generation of our fossil fuels, oil, gas, and coal, using fracking, carbon capture, and modern methods. And like I said, we do this cleaner here in the US than anywhere in the world, and the technology is available to the world. Rather than relying on energy from Venezuela, Iran, or Russia, where the harvesting is up to 7 times dirtier than when it's done here, we should be using all of the energy available to us to benefit our citizens. I propose we use all the different fuels, but we also need to prioritizing securing our energy supply chains, both for the fuels of today and tomorrow. The critical minerals are a prime example of this. China has captivated the world and dominates the marketplace, both with mining and processing. And the solution for these issues is to produce more and build more. This is a critical national imperative for all of our countries. My dream is we promote all kinds of energy, especially cheap, reliable, and sustainable energy. Nuclear energy is sustainable. Because of regulations and lawsuits, it's nearly impossible to build a nuclear plant in the United States today. There's so much innovation around small and advanced nuclear reactors that offer new and exciting opportunities. Every country should be working on all kinds of energy and not turning our backs on cheap and abundant fuel. Fossil fuels are woven into every aspect of all of our lives. From the foods we eat to pharmaceuticals, our makeup, our clothing, the fixtures in this room, it powers every industry, and it's in our building materials and in our steel. I'll say this, the boogeyman of carbon dioxide, which is 0.04% of our atmosphere, if the world gets a tiny little bit warmer, more people will flourish. If it gets a little tiny bit colder, more people will die. It's just a fact. And there have been scam artists and prophets of doom before any of us were born. Every era has them. Today, the scam is that we should decarbonize our economies. Instead, I propose an alternative future, a brighter future, where human beings flourish across the globe, where there's opportunity and people can achieve prosperity, where people can afford to heat their homes in the winter, and businesses can afford their electric bills and not be forced to close because of bad government policies and regulations. The leaders of the Western world have caused this energy disaster. And there's still time to course correct in a more meaningful way than Germany allowing some coal-fired plants to reopen, or the Biden administration's platitudes, like their claim of 9,000 unused leases for oil and gas. The climate movement has become the Greens' secular religion. And today our adversary China is building more coal-fired plants than all the coal-fired plants being decommissioned across the Western world. And the reality is that China recognizes and embraces prioritizing affordable, reliable energy. I propose that rather than weakening our economies, we promote clean energy harvesting technology that our incredible engineers and scientists have invented. I call on our governments to reduce the perverse regulations and policies that harm investment and prevent banks from working with energy companies and punish energy producers. I propose that we encourage companies to cleanly harvest energy, to build the nuclear plants that work best for their economies, and continue to innovate new energy solutions. By taking the burden of government off the backs of our energy producers and allowing our citizens to benefit from cheap and abundant clean energy, we end the misery of the progression toward a deindustrialized Western society, which will absolutely result in a lower quality of life and shorter lifespans for our people, and cripple the progress in the developing world. You know, policies that have been put in place, both in the EU and now in the United States, restrict energy and ban carbon combustion engine cars by 2035, and this is perverse. It has to be reversed. But more importantly, we must recognize that our current trajectory does not meet the needs of today or tomorrow, nor does it recognize the innovative strides that have been made over the decades since the 1970s. We need comprehensive energy reforms, not merely the patchwork of solutions from both sides of the aisle in Congress, but to undertake a truly grand regulatory reform that promotes human flourishing. You know, the United States can once again be a global leader through commercial diplomacy. Our innovative companies could partner with other countries to share best practices for harvesting and production and export our clean and abundant fuel. This is how we, as the United States, can contribute to global prosperity and security. By placing human flourishing as our paramount goal, we can eradicate energy poverty, garner energy security for all nations left exposed to the whims of others, and we can provide opportunity for billions to prosper in the decades to come. Thank you.